of if you had an opportunity to tell the legislature what to do during this regular session, what would it be?
Do your job and pass a budget. Pass a budget that fixes the fiscal cliff of $700 million. If the executive branch will not work with you, don't do the opposite of what they do and come in and try to force their hand by making drastic cuts in programs that's going to hurt people. But look at each program on your own and find the areas where you can attack corruption, reduce waste, and increase efficiencies. And if we take that approach and stop the attacks from the left on the right and from the right on the left, we can pass a budget that actually fits our needs. And the governor needs to get Senator Alario to support the budget the House passes if it's a reasonable budget and it eliminates this $700 million cliff. The governor supporting that budget when it goes to the Senate will enable its passage in a smooth way, and it can be done. There's no doubt in my mind that it can be done, and we don't have to hurt people to do that.
Okay, so here's the last question I have, or last set of questions I have, and I'm just trying to think out loud for a second, and that is that in this regular session, let's assume that they take your ideas and they maybe make changes to Medicaid, which would require say copays and other payments by, say, the recipient or the insured, to contribute to, to reduce the burden on the state and to contribute to the state. Now, by doing that, that's not raising revenues, that's taking away benefits. So therefore, that's going to be approved by a majority, or would be approved by a majority. Same thing in terms of, say, cuts or modifications to...
I see, there you go again, though, Steve. You say taking away benefits. Do you tell me that a $5 copay levied on Medicaid recipient that has a job is taking away a benefit? Come on, brother. I mean, that's the kind of negativity, though, that we've got to get away from that, because that's not a cut in a benefit. Look, a lot of us have government-backed and subsidized insurance and those kind of things, and we all pay copays if we're able to. You can have a means test to make sure that we can do that and actually put some teeth into that work requirement for Medicaid recipients if you put a $5 copay on an emergency room visit and reduce emergency room visits.
Okay, well, I don't know how else to ask the question, because insurance companies call those benefits. Okay, so that's what I'm referring to. Okay,
but instituting a copay is not a reduction in benefits. It's just making the program more efficient. Well, so you don't have to raise revenue because you can get the dollars out of the program itself, and it wouldn't be an unreasonable amount.
Okay, well,
that's the issue.
Okay, and that's not what I'm referring to, though. Okay,
okay.
I don't know of any other term to use. I'm not talking about government benefits. I'm talking about the term that insurance companies use in terms of what they're willing to pay. So, so that's what the issue that I'm raising. So you don't say there you go again, but the issue that I'm raising is this: that the things that you're recommending can be done not necessarily in a special session, but in a regular session. That you do not need to have a supermajority vote. That's what I'm asking.
That's the positive side of what you said. Exactly, and you're exactly right. It can be done during the regular session without a supermajority vote.
So that means that the House and Senate majority can do that on their own. They don't need the Black Caucus like they did during the special session.
That's right.
Okay. I just wanted to get that out there. Okay, I mean that's what I wanted to get out. I'm not. If you can think of some other term other than benefits, that I can use to describe what the insurance company would be paying out, I'm for it.
Well, Medicaid's a government program, so if you institute a copay, you're doing what I said needs. One of the three things I said needs to be done, and that's the efficiency part of it. You can make it more efficient because, and I used emergency room visits for a reason, and $5 for a reason,
Sure,
because those are folks that, some of them do work. So if you are working, I say, and you have to pay a $5 copay if you go to the emergency room. That will do a couple of things. Number one, it reduces your need to have to raise revenue to replace those dollars if you don't have the copay. So you get those dollars in. But number two, it reduces emergency room visits, which is very expensive, and it encourages people to go to urgent care or primary care for a visit instead of going to the emergency room. And that is a policy change that I think would have a very positive effect with minimal impact. And if we do it right, no impact really on Medicaid recipients if we limit it to those folks that are working. Because I've seen on the left side of the argument on Twitter, even as late as a week ago, that the folks were complaining because people on the right were making the assumption that folks on Medicaid don't work. And I know that's not true. Some folks that are able-bodied that just don't make enough money are able to get on Medicaid now. And a reasonable effort to find the line of agreement between the two sides could be something like a $5 copay for emergency room visits and have a positive effect as opposed to a negative effect, and open everybody on both sides up for these vicious attacks that happen.
Okay, well, look, I agree with what you're saying. Okay, and I agree that the House can do this on their own and the Senate can do this on their own. Yeah. Okay, I agree with that, and I do think that it needs to be more contribution. I'm just saying that I don't know any other word to describe, the services. Other than using the term benefit, even though that has a connotation is different than what I intended. Okay.
Yeah, and what would also be helpful, even though the majority wouldn't need groups like the Legislative Black Caucus in the House. What else would be helpful is if they would work with the Legislative Black Caucus to develop these types of policy changes. So that they're working together, and if the Legislative Black Caucus would be willing to come and do this in good faith, along with the folks on the Republican side, that would be, that's the ultimate good policy making effort that needs to occur here and can occur here. And I just use that $5 copay as an example. Sure. There are all types of ways you can find efficiencies that's not an attack on individuals that are participating in the program or individuals that support the programs, and vice versa. So there are ways to get this done and not violate your principles of, on one side, wanting to make sure that there's a safety net for the poor, and on the other side, wanting to make sure that we're making sound financial decisions for the state.
Sure. No. And again, the legislature can do this on their own. They don't need Democrats. They don't need Black Caucus. They can do this. And if a special session is called, as I appreciate what we're talking about, is they don't have to participate in terms of voting in favor of any revenue bills. So in actuality, I think what we're saying is that the Republicans in the legislature have it totally in their camp. They can decide their own future going forward in this session.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Okay.
But you have to acknowledge the reality, though, that the Senate is controlled by John Alario, and they tend to align themselves on the budget with the governor. So the governor is critical to getting the support of the Senate, even though they are a Republican majority.
I understand. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking your time and